know, this pop culture wall is starting to look pretty cool. It may just be Super Nintendo for now, but gosh darn it, it's a start.
I bet you can't beat Cybernoid on NES. Boom. Calling you out, bro.
Some good old-fashioned smack talk, huh? Let's go for a playfully determined approach. Maybe not on my first try, or second, or 10th, but I won't get stonewalled, man. Just can't happen. All those other games are super hard. It'll just be a matter of time.
This game is frustrating to no end. I've been trying to beat it for 20 years. Granted, I don't try it often and haven't tried it in about 5 years, but I've been running it for a couple days and it's driving me mad.
What the heck is Cybernoid anyway? I better look that up. Just what the heck do you think you're doing? Well, I'm gonna play Cybernoid to see just how hard it is. Cybernoid? First of all, what the hell is that? Secondly, you have other reviews to work on. You're saying that to me like I don't know that already, man. I was just gonna sit down and play through some pop culture games until I got that message from David. Now I have to check it out. What are you even doing thinking about that stuff? Have you forgotten? You still have part 3 of the Joe and Max series review. And, in case you've also forgotten, Mega Man 3 comparing the NES to the Genesis port. Alright man, well, first of all, don't throw my games anymore. That's definitely not going to continue. Second of all, I hear you, alright? You're right, I need to finish those things, but first let me just tackle this challenge, and then I'll move on. I'll go through pop culture, I'll go through favorites, we'll get back on the schedule. I get it, I have to finish part 3, okay? Of both series, I'll get to it. Yeah, it sounds like you have a lot of thinking to do, so I'll leave you alone for now. Wow, what an asshole. Well, now that I can get back to that. Only $15 for complete in box? Why would I not buy that? Sure, let's give this a try. Alright, cool. So you naturally descend and press up to ascend. You can shoot and have some special weapons. Let's go over these. You have Seekers, Bouncers, Bombs, Genocide, which clears all the moving enemies on the screen, and the 1 time per life invincibility shield to toggle through with the select, and you use them with B. But something pretty weird here is that it doesn't seem to be responsive all the time. Sometimes it's delayed or I have to press the button twice. I noticed it the very first time playing and it continues to be somewhat of a regular thing long after that. But overall, seems simple enough. Feels like I know what's going on here. There are no continues and you start with 9 lives. Let's see how this goes. Obviously I'm going to start over. That didn't seem right. What the hell is this thing? See, this is exactly why I left the top 10 hardest game list as an open discussion or running dialogue that will be updated every year or so. Even though that list is already packed with super difficult games, this one has definitely earned its way somewhere into the mix, because my god, I'll be damned if this game won't shove its cyber fist right up your cyber ass. Originally on the ZX Spectrum and ported to a bunch of old school consoles, most of which I've never played, like the Amstrad, Atari ST, Commodore 64, and ported to the NES. How hard is this game really? You know something is downright disgustingly hardcore and obscure when you realize that if you beat the game outright on the NES and uploaded it on YouTube, you would be the very first person to do so. I'm not kidding. As far as I've seen on the very few videos that there are 2 factors making this video and playthrough that you're about to watch 100% unique and a first on the entire site of YouTube. The first difference would be that it's the only run to not be emulated or be tool assisted on a computer from start to finish. The second difference requires a little explanation, but is extremely significant. When watching these playthroughs, there are some eyebrow-raising differences, to say the least. One, for example, is the vertical scrolling enemy speed is dramatically slower, making it much easier to pass as opposed to the original copy I'm playing when they're moving the same vertical speed as your ship, which I hope you can clearly see why this matters a lot. I mean, a lot. But the most significant of all, these runs access a transformation power-up that provides completely game-changing abilities, with a long temporary invincibility so you can float through many screens without worry. It even increases your 1 invincibility shield per life to 4, and as if that wasn't enough, it gives vastly superior orbiting protection with much faster of an orbit and better coverage. While I was trying to learn this game and get further, I figured this was how things were supposed to go and tried to get this power up myself. But you know what? I was never able to recreate it. I'm not messing around with you. Look at this. I tried several times. I did the exact same things, like sitting on the same space while emptying all of my special weapons, just as they did, looking for that type of advantage. I even asked for clarification on Nintendo Complete, and they said emptying all of your bouncers, but still, I did this and it never showed up. I even consulted the original manual, and stranger yet, it says nothing nothing about that power-up at all. It talks about transformation, sure, but it only refers to the orbiting power that you can get 2 of at a time and the rear shooting attachment power-ups. There's nothing in this thing at all about this fate-altering mech upgrade. So you know what? The only way we're going to be able to do this is straight up with no transformation on the original hardware using a D-pad. I was planning on uploading this full playthrough in a separate video, but since this game only takes around 10 minutes to finish, or around 11 minutes in my run on the NES without the transformation, I figured it would be best to quickly talk about everything I learned about this game over the few days of various practice sessions I had, and then go over the full playthrough. So real quick, there's a surprising amount of detail and strategy to this game. Being precise with your ship is not enough. You will only get so far. This game has some undeniable luck factor in it as well, since there are plenty of screens with basically randomly appearing enemies on the side of it. There is seriously no consistent pattern to these waves of enemies at all, and they will constantly and cheaply smack you right in the face. While a lot of these games have consistent strategies since there's predictability and to a seasoned player not a lot of surprises, but with Cybernoid, that same part of the screen that worked one time may not work the other times. Some rooms feel like a complete 50-50 shot. When you die, it puts you back at the start of the room. But things are so out of control here that you can even lose your life from a spawning enemy on the same frame that you touch the next screen, sometimes not even realizing that you just lost a life. That's just how ridiculous and unpredictable this thing really is. It's a mix of having to be incredibly precise while also relying on some strategies that seem to work around 60 to 70% of the time. There are plenty of moments and runs of bad luck in various rooms where you have to drop out of screen, for example, and one will just respawn right into you. In addition to the absurd precision, the complete lack of reliable routes, and inconsistent response of your special weapon, you also frequently have some poor collision detection that can catch or snag your ship from moving forward, and there are even glitches and straight up bad design that can completely screw you over, like these vertical moving guys have glitched out 4 times in the several hours I've played with the game, making it impossible to pass without your invincibility shield. And there's even a room where you can be completely stuck and kill your run entirely if you enter it toward the top of the screen. What the hell? The gameplay's dirty, we can't get the transformation power to show up, the D-pad wears on your left thumb from having to hold it up all the time, and the strategy is this: you have to essentially be flawless everywhere to provide a buffer of lives to account for all kinds of potential problems and this somewhat likely crap that's out of control. There are a ton of key details that go into a legitimate Cybernoid run, but it'll make so much more sense, it's just best to show in the playthrough, so that about sums it up for now. Let's take a look at the very first non-emulator, non-TAS, no Game Genie, and no transformation power-up video of Cybernoid from start to finish on the NES with an NES controller. So only in the second room, things get really dangerous. You just have to quickly drop. You always can get hit by an enemy, but you have to take that risk. On the next screen, we just have some bubbles to avoid and then get close enough for our orbit to smash this green blob. Important to note now, they do not all work that way. The hitboxes for some of these enemies are completely inconsistent just depending on what room you go to. Alright, now we've got our first little test of these vertical moving enemies, but as you can see with a lot of practice, you can slide right in there. Alright, on this screen we're going to slide by that missile that comes out, we're going to stick down to the bottom left and just hope one of those arrows don't ruin it for us. You can see here with all the practice, you're going to have to move through these vertical scrolling enemies a whole lot. And now we're just making our way, we're going to take out another bubble guy. And then here we encounter quite a bit of enemies. We're just going to slide up here, destroy that green blob, which by the way, you still can get enemies to spawn in your face. And here's a room where you really just have to wait for like that millipede or whatever's going on there, get that out of the way. And then you have to quickly move in and out and then hug that top part, otherwise you can easily get hit by that thing underneath you. And then we are through. Now here, we don't have anything that can kill us, but it's more of like a little puzzle on how we can use the right weapon. So we're going to hit select, take out the bouncers, and then we're sliding down past everything. I used to take out that green bubble enemy, but it's just not even worth it. Now we're just using our bombs in order to move through. And of course, we're just going to carefully line up against the wall, slide past that millipede, and this is already the end of level 1. Let's go up here, use our orbits, and that's the end of level 1. Pretty good. We still have 9 lives. You might be wondering, does this game get hard? Oh my goodness, does it get hard. So on level 2, sometimes I use bouncers here or bombs, but this time I just use some seekers to get these things out of the way. Seekers do work like heat-seeking missiles, but you cannot choose what they go after. They actually go after the same enemies every single time in the same order in a room, and they also just go after missiles and the green blob things, but no moving enemies or anything like that. And the following room brings up a really important power-up, Genocide. Just do not want to hesitate, we want to move out of the way before that millipede thing gets in our way, and we absolutely want to grab that orbiting power-up. Then you've got missiles shooting right down at you, you need to slide right past that stuff. Then we've got another test of our vertical moving control. For some of these I definitely press upward if that's the direction you have to go, and then just sliding down seems to be a lot easier. Here, it's kind of a moment where I sometimes use Genocide. You can see I almost actually died from an enemy right on the edge of the screen. And now we're going up, we're avoiding bubbles, we're taking out the green blob. Here's another really tense room where things can go wrong, but you just use your little laser the best you can, and we're just going to press upward and maybe get a little lucky there. Now, here is actually a great room for some bouncers that looks pretty badass. You have to avoid these bubbles and then let it go in the right area to destroy that green blob and some missiles, so you can avoid having to use a shield. There are several examples where we gotta get creative and make the most of our weapon, and that's just one example of it, but it does feel pretty cool to clear a room and then squeeze our way out. You can see that this is just another one of those rooms that we've seen before. Just slide on by, use your timing. Then on this room we have to use our bouncers in order to clear the things above us. There are a couple parts in the game where you simply just need your bouncers. You have 5 per life, which is pretty good, but if you do survive for a while, like you can see we haven't died yet, you do have to be smart so you don't get stuck on things like that. This one's simple enough, of course, you just wait and slide on by. Another simple one, just wait. I'm actually resting my thumb here. Now we'll go up and we will slide on by, no big deal. And then here is another part where you kind of just have to pray. So instead I actually just use the shield. It's only our first life so far, it's going well, we don't want to be greedy and not use our shield because we get it back anyway if we were to die. So let's use these things to get as far as we can. In the next room we actually use a seeker that we were talking about in order to get through that green blob. And in this room up here you can see that the hitboxes are pretty strange with these missile pod things, but if you can get your ship in the right spot and move around, your orbits will actually take them out, meaning you don't need to use any more weapons. You can see some rooms really aren't too much of a challenge, and then we approach another one of these things where we just need to use our timing to slide on by. And then this is a room where you kind of just hug the ceiling and pray and shoot. I've definitely been smacked in the face before, like it's not even necessarily my fault, I just get slapped. And then here we make it to the end of the stage after making it through everything, and you can see I try to use the special weapons in order to make that transformation thing appear, and also to see if anything has a way to take these things out, these missile pods, but nothing will. And this screen, I'm actually on it for quite a while because I'm trying to get that transformation thing to pop up one more time, just like we always see. And you know what, I actually have managed to bait these missiles out successfully since this recording, and I know it can be done, but here you see I die, and I'm just going to use my shield. This has been my strategy, I just use the shield and slide on by. But you can see I didn't even need to, so I could have saved the shield. This is not a perfect run, but it's still the only one on NES that exists on YouTube. And we're on the last level here. Things are getting really serious. You can see they give us an orbiting power-up right away, so we're going to use those to clear these missile pods. And here we have to avoid some bubbles carefully. We're going to slide by some missiles, barely. And then we're just going to slide by, not mess around with that at all. Also, another room we don't need to do much with, just slide on by the missiles. Here we get to use some bombs to make our way down. And you can see we're going to grab this little rear shooting attachment. We're just going to slide on by as we shoot some blocks. We're going to take out these missile pods. Obviously flying above those would be death. And then here's another insane room, as you can see. Bubbles are coming. Oh man, quick bomb shot, just what a snipe. And then we're just trying to get our way down there. These things definitely like to swing up into you unexpectedly, barely avoiding them. I try to go through with the orbiting power-up, but sometimes you can see you actually can kill a missile spot, and the missile will still come out of the ground anyway. I don't know if that's intended or a troll design, but it is garbage, so it makes some rooms extremely unsafe even if you clear everything. And next, not too horrible, just have to kill this green blob guy, but this is a pretty tight thing here. So we're just going to move up, and yep, we lost a life there. Pretty garbage, not what you'd expect or not what you'd hope for with how this run's been going. I'm like, alright, you just died with a shield, that was not worth it. But you can make up for it right here. So this is a room that took me a little bit to figure out. But if you shoot your bombs and then use your shield right here, because I swear, like, you can just not get through any other way. You hit the select 3 times, get your bombs up, And we're just making our way through vertically. Praying that we don't get smacked, and here we go. We get smacked in the face by an enemy we could not even see coming. In this room, you can see I'm thinking about it. I'm not trying to use a genocide, but I eventually end up doing it because I do not want to go down to 4 lives at this point. And here we are. We just have to stick to the top in order to avoid those missiles, and we just have to be careful with that millipede thing. Just get out of the way, and of course we're going to use our bouncers in order to move downward. That's kind of how this goes. And here you can see, by the way, those volcano things do not hurt you. It looks like they would, but they don't. I just want to throw that out there because it becomes important in a little bit. Barely slide by. I mean, that's not an easy gap to make. In this part, sometimes you just get unlucky, it shoots something out, and you have to use your shield, so I was ready, that's why I pulled up the shield, and now I've got the genocide up in the ready, just in case, because you gotta be ready. Things start to move a little bit. We're using our bouncers to get through the blocks, we're using our bombs, while avoiding bubbles, of course. We have to just try to hover around and clear that thing on the outside. We're going to use some bouncers here, which look pretty cool as they just clear the whole screen. Awesome when they work out that way, just waiting for bubbles to disappear. And we make our way over. And of course I have the genocide up just in case. We're going to use our bouncers anyway, just to clear the room. I don't have this game memorized at this point, by the way. It's kind of like I remember and anticipate rooms, but I do not know what's coming up next. So that's why sometimes I have to switch weapons as soon as I get into it. And here, I actually do something kind of risky. I pull out the shield and pick up that Acme power-up in order to replenish your shield. Those things don't drop all the time, so pretty pumped about grabbing another shield at this point. I remember being pretty proud of that. We're moving vertically, just hoping we don't get hit by a respawning enemy. And this is a room where you'll want your shield, so I get to use it right there in order to get to the room. Definitely worth picking that up. Good thing it extended a little bit into this room because something overlapped with me as soon as I was entering it, which I would have died if I was not with the shield. Still moving down, trying to anticipate the best I can, just trying to get down there off these screens. And here's a room that takes a little bit. You just have to use some bombs and be in the right spot in order to clear them and then move your way downward. And this timing isn't too crazy, I'm just being careful because I've gotten to the 3rd level, late into the 3rd level so many times at this point. And I'm just trying to close things out. So here you can see, pretty distracting, they have a volcano and a projectile coming out. You can definitely just slide down there, sit on the volcano, and then leave. Not many people would know that. You'd think you'd have to use your shield. There's a whole lot going on here. I pull up the Seeker, immediately clear that guy, trying to avoid bubbles. And I'm going to make my run for it on the bottom. And I actually die, which is pretty garbage. You can see just how garbage this is. And here we go, we're going to pick up another shield. Now we have 2 of them. So you know what, I'm trying to make up for it. Now I'm going to use genocide. I'm like, you know what, screw this. That's too risky. And here we are on one of the cheapest screens ever. So we're in a blank screen with a bunch of missiles and things that can kill you. So we're just going to use our shield. And here we are at one of the last screens in the game. I have 4 lives. And I use the shield, and I miss getting in there. And I'm trapped with bubbles, so I feel a little panicked. I have to use the shield. I'm like, okay, let's get in there. But this is the smallest gap we've had to move through yet, so I choke again. Now I have 2 lives, and I'm almost cornered by bubbles. I use the shield. I'm like, get in there. Now here we are with 1 life left, and I'm just like, oh my god, how did you choke this away? You had good luck. But here I am. I go for it. I wait to use the shield, and we're through. Like, holy crap. I've never been on this part. This is the furthest I've gotten, and I'm just like trying to close this out. We're on the very last transfer, and I'm thinking, holy crap, it looks like I need at least 2 lives at this point. But you know what? I pull out the bouncers, and I go for it. Yep, I get one of them in there. It clears the landing for me. So here we go. It's possible. I'm thinking about it. I'm seriously just seeing it in front of my eyes that I'm going to get smacked by these things. But you know what? We make it anyway. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the first Cybernoid on an NES with an NES controller. No cheats, no transformation power-ups, just straight up beating it. And you can see I should have probably finished with at least 2 or 3 lives, but still, it's the first on YouTube. Here's the ending. What a thing that most people have not seen. It's insane, but it's very short, and like that is the end of the game. Wild. Man, that's Cybernoid, and it was tough. But I just want to say thank you so much for watching this far. We'll wrap up the video. For you Cybernoid fans out there and anyone else that's curious, I will end it with 20 seconds on the lethal difficulty. I did get to the 3rd level on that difficulty. It's really nuts, but I don't think I want to spend any more time with this game, at least for now. There's just plenty more to see out there. But of course, I want to say a special thank you and shout out for Nerdberry, aka David, who challenged me to Cybernoid, and that call has been answered. But overall, I just want to say he's a super nice dude. All right, he manages his own power washing company. He works super hard, at least 70 hours a week, with just like a couple young kids at home, and somehow he still manages to co-run a site called Nerd Bacon. They write a bunch of articles. Their writing style is actually really good. I enjoy reading it, and they feature my content. So thank you so much for supporting me in that way. During these crazy times, David has actually gone above and beyond and hired me on to help with some of his projects for his clients, which is super nice. I got to power sand a deck, got to pound some nails, got to crawl on some rock and paint some fence. For those of you that don't know, it's like a little fence underneath the deck. So that was great. So thank you so much for supporting me in that way, David. I genuinely appreciate you. And of course, definitely have to thank another friend and website for featuring MarMax Gaming content, which is the NESpage.com. Another person that is just so passionate, again, works super hard, has like a family and some young ones at home, but still it doesn't stop him from being super active in the gaming community, putting together a bunch of events. So he's the man. They write great articles and the website is really well put together, just like Nerd Bacon. So 2 really great outlets if you're looking just to read from 2 people that are grown up with the hobby and they like stick with it throughout their whole lives. Well, thank you again so much to everyone for watching. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Remember to let me know what you think in the comments, and please like and subscribe to support the channel if you enjoyed it. Otherwise, I hope to see you next time. Thank you again.